right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, why are we here?
Because we're here. Roll the bones.
Roll the Bones. We are here to talk about 1991's Roll the Bones. First things first, our pal Tim was unable to join us today, so we have two special guests instead of just one. We have Brendan in the top right corner and Chris in the bottom right corner. They are regulars of our channel. New to the deep dives, joining Donna and myself. We have two sponsors actually of this Rush deep dive. Artovision, they have a brand new 3D shadow box out for Roll the Bones 30th anniversary, as well as a 3D desktop art piece. And collections, they have a Roll the Bones poster, two Roll the Bones posters actually for the 30th anniversary, a main edition and a special edition poster. The links to both of them will be in the description of this video. So as always, the first thing we do is we talk about the cover art. And I'm going to read from Hugh Symes' Art of Rush. The cover concept ties in with the theme of the title track, an existential treatise on the nature of fate. Questions about destiny and circumstance also pop up in The Big Wheel, Ghost of a Chance, and You Bet Your Life. Roll the Bones is actually an old expression that means roll the dice, explains Neil. The question at the heart of the song, why fret over whether it's possible to control one's own fortune? Instead, the lyric argues, it's better to make proactive decisions and live bold lives. The cover art was inspired by the so-called Vanitas artwork produced in the Netherlands during the 16th and 17th centuries. The paintings included symbols of death and decomposition to remind viewers of materiality and the transience of life. But the boy in jeans and a t-shirt on the cover of Roll the Bones isn't concerned with questions of fate or mortality. He not only disregards the degenerating wall of dice next to him, but also absent-mindedly kicks a skull he comes across on the pavement. His childhood innocence is a stark contrast to the ennui that afflicts so many adult lives. In Hugh's original cover image, the potential for death looms even closer. The nonchalant boy walks on a narrow sidewalk abutted by a vast mass of oily water. There's a ripple of excitement on its surface. The body of water eager to swallow up the boy should he make a misstep. The existence of a reservoir in the image may come as a surprise to those who have only seen the cropped jewel case cover and not the 1991 tour book or the original long box. Hugh Symes used a wall of dice on the cover to spell out the band's name and the album title. The H in Rush is lowercase, and it's unsettling and it's a bit edgy, says Hugh. In keeping with Rushian tradition, most of the dice display the side with 3 dots. Near the bottom of the wall, the dice appear to disintegrate in a process of random entropy. The album's back cover continues the motifs of the front. It includes another segment of dice wall with an aperture that opens to a welcome wash of blue sky. Several femur bones appear to have floated through the opening. Neil says that the femurs were on my bass drum during that tour. The artwork inside the CD booklet alludes to the theme of fate. An image of wishbones floating above a lake is a nod toward the superstitious custom in which 2 people pull at the opposite end of the fowl's breastbone. A person who comes away with the larger piece gets to make a wish. The inside sleeve also includes a photo of the backside of an elephant. Some people have asked me, what does the elephant mean? Neil says, it's rolling the biggest bones on earth. What do we think of the cover art?
I love it.
Me too.
I thought it had something to do with ivory and dice and something. The elephant. But I don't know. Yeah, I love this album cover.
I think it's one of Hugh Symes' best, to be honest. I think it's really, really well done. Really well done. And if you...
It proves once again, every single time you think you know what Rush are going to do, they do
very
something.
True.
I mean, there's some bands, and I've said this before, there's some bands where it's like every album cover is like, like you just pretty much can predict what the album art is going to look like. You can't predict what a Rush album cover is going to look like. I mean, unless, of course, it's like a live concert, like, oh, a live concert. But otherwise, I didn't know half of what they were going to do. Not like I was supposed to, but I'm saying as a fan, it's like, oh, do you ever look at a Rush album cover and just go, oh?
Yeah.
That was always part of the fun of getting an album for me, was like, what's it going to look like? I think this was the album that was rumored at one point to be called Critical Mass. It was either this or might have been Test for Echo. I don't remember. I just vaguely remember this rumor about Critical Mass. Anyway.
So on the cover, you see that the oily water there, they actually built like basically a huge swimming pool in the studio, filled it with water. You can see it in some interview videos, which is pretty neat. And they painted Hugh Sign painted the sidewalk there. And the story goes, he went outside, pulled some grass and weeds up and put it where the cracks are on the cover on the sidewalk for the cover. So very cool. This album art also won the 1992 Juno Award for Best Cover Art Design. So, I mean, they really hit it out of the park.
When I first looked at that, what came up for me, of course, besides being a rock and roll DJ, I'm a professor of English and of media.
Hamlet.
And the first thing that came up for me was the scene in Hamlet, with the skull, alas, poor Yorick. He doesn't say, I knew him well. That's a misquote. It's, I knew him.
Yeah, him, Horatio.
And it's all about how fleeting life is, like how things they happen so quickly. And while you see a chance, take it. And hey, roll the bones, just take your chance. And that is such a running theme throughout this album. And I just was thinking about that, just the fleeting nature of life. Even the kid, just looking at that skull, it's like, could be any of us, like
right.
One day you're on top, one day you're on the bottom, you just never.
Which he revisits in Far Cry. What do you know?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
Another recurring theme, and this is one that's in the big wheel as well and all over the album, is the fact that there's a lot of randomness. There's things that the universe throws at you that you can't control. There's also things you can control, and there's things that you can seize control of and influence. And part of life is identifying which is which, and finding those moments to kind of try to seize the reins.
Chris has something he wants to read from the tour book, from the Roll the Bones tour book as well.
Yeah, so. This is from the piece entitled Row the Boats that Neil wrote. And I'm just going to read the ending, which kind of summarizes what the entire album is about. And he says, that's why the essence of these songs is, if there's a chance, you might as well take it. So what if some parts of life are a crapshoot? Get out there and shoot the crap. A random universe doesn't have to be futile. We can change the odds, load the dice, and roll again. And there's no escaping the dice. Even if you try to take the sting out of a random universe by embracing the prefab structure of faith, you still have to gamble that it's the right one. You might have lived your good long life as an exemplary Christian only to be met at the gates of heaven by Muhammad. Anything can happen. That is called fate. Why are we here? Because we're here. Row the boats. Smart guy, that Neil.
All right. So the song that I'm going to talk about for Roll the Bones is the fourth track on this record. It is Face Up. So I want to start with the reason we're starting with Face Up is because I want to start with a quote from Neil in Merely Players. He says, "Turn it up or turn that wild card down. That line started it all." So, the song title refers to the cliche of facing up to your problems and to card games where a wild card is turned down or up. Ultimately, a question of free will and responsibility for your own choices. Here is where I'm actually going to turn it over to Neil himself from a Roll the Bones interview. Take it away, Professor.
It came by levels. I mean, as I mentioned in the bio, I started with a simple line in Face Up about turning a wild card down, and that came about through wordplay. I was just thinking about the phrase "turn it up," which is, pretty elemental. a pretty everyday sensual thing. You know, you like the music, turn it up. But then I was thinking about turning up other sensations, and it became a metaphor. And then I thought, well, what else do you turn up or turn down? Well, you turn a card down in euchre or some game. And I thought, well, that's a wild card. And then I thought, wild card, yeah. And then it became deeper. I started thinking, okay, the elements of wild card in all of our lives, you know, the choices we make, certainly, but the conditions that happen to be favorable or unfavorable to that choice. I mean, for all of us, the number of times we escape death, you know, as teenagers, doing crazy things or heedless things, truly thoughtless things, but we survive. And there's such an element of chance about that, too. So that whole element of chance just became such a great, it was a theme on its own, but also a metaphor for a lot of other thoughts.
So we probably wouldn't have the whole Roll the Bones album as a whole if it wasn't for Face Up and this one quote, you know. This was the first song really written for the record, dealing with an element of chance and how life can throw wild cards at you. And it uses Face Up, the lyrics in Face Up use gambling metaphors for life in general. I'm on a roll now, or is it a slide? Can't be too careful with that dangerous pride. Another one later on in the song. There's still time to turn this game around. And then I really love the line, I get so angry, but I keep my mouth shut, because I feel like this line here describes, of course, gambling and losing, right? Because you don't want to really make a scene in a casino. And but life in general, when you're kind of down on yourself or something angers you, you generally just kind of keep chugging along, right? So I think that's a really good metaphor for life. And Neil also mentions in this song quite a bit after every chorus here, he says, and turn it up, referencing, you know, actually I read the quote specifically here. So if I could only reach that dial inside and turn it up. So we talk a lot on deep dives about how Neil revisits themes, and I feel like he revisits this theme in Working Them Angels when he writes, turn up the music and smile. And in Face Up, to me, this line is basically stating, you know, life throws curveballs at you, life throws wild cards at you, but turning up the music can kind of help you get through those things, right? And another lyric here, you get all squeezed up inside like the days were carved in stone. You get all wired up inside, and it's bad to be alone. And he goes on to say, you can go out, you can take a ride, and when you get out on your own, you get all smoothed out inside, and it's good to be alone. This is Neil stating, sometimes in life, you know, it's good to just be alone, because the music slows down here at this point too. At this point in the song, the music kind of slows down. You know, sometimes we need to take a break from whatever we're doing. You know, whether it's working, you get up from your desk, or if you work at a desk, get up, take a break, whatever. Sometimes it's good to just be alone, be at peace. It's good for people. And I think musically, while a lot of people say, you know, the drums are kind of, I don't want to say non-existent, but really tinny on this album, I don't really mind it. I think this whole record, you know, the drums aren't as prominent, but I think musically this song to me sounds like it could be like the credits for like a 1980s or 90s action movie or something. It's very upbeat, very fast paced. You know, the guitar solo is very fast and impressive. And finally, the last thing I'm going to close with here is, this is from Neil in Contents Under Pressure. He says, Face Up is one of those songs that we didn't think lived up to the potential that we had for it. So I really like this too, and I think it's one of the best on the record. Really good way to kind of open. I know it doesn't open the record itself, but I think it was a really, really cool way to start the whole theme of Roll the Bones. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, it's interesting how that music, I hadn't thought about it, how the music slows down during that, I guess you call that the middle eight or whatever, where the you get all squeezed out inside. I think that it's the music itself and the whole song is pretty frenetic and crazy and high pitched and everything, and then it's just like, whoa, let's chill out for a second. Down. Yeah, and something that Neil, you know, discovered years later about taking your baby soul for a ride, right?
Right.
calming yourself down, getting out, and yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I think that, I get so angry, but I keep my mouth shut. That's also part of, what are you keeping your mouth shut for? Just say what you need to say, just go for it.
It's true.
That's another chance that you need to take. Yeah.
It's true.
So Ghost of a Chance. So this is a song that comes much later in the album. I think it's track 8. And this, to me, I believe, is a very beautiful and unusual love song. And Neil, according to the Song by Song book, described it as one of their all-time greats. And although he claimed that his lyrics tended to be more about fictional characters than autobiographical, I really sense a lot of Neil's, famously rational scientific skeptic voice in this song. And it's a track that really resonates with me personally. And if you'll allow me to tell a quick story, and I promise I'm going somewhere with this, on the topic of being autobiographical, but I have a very distinct memory of my first day at middle school in the 7th grade. This is back in the late 80s, walking through a crowded cafeteria, with my lunch on a tray. This was a new school. I was a shy kid. I saw an empty seat next to a kid that I sort of knew. I sat down. Well, at that lunch table, I met this different guy. We became buddies. Years later, he met a young woman through his part-time job. My friends and I went out one evening, and all of these circumstances and moments in our lives converged on this evening in 1996. Actually, I was wearing a Test for Echo tour shirt. And I ended up getting introduced to this girl by this friend. She and I have now been married for almost 20 years. And none of that would have happened except for that empty lunchroom chair. And none of that would have happened except that they both answered the same help wanted ad for this furniture store. And I think about that when I think about this song and the lyrics, like, for so many different directions our separate paths might have turned. This is a song that celebrates the sort of odd randomness of the universe, and stuff happens, personal choices, circumstances knock us in different directions, but somehow we find each other. We form friendships, relationships. And I believe Neil's perspective, when he says, I don't believe in destiny, what he's saying is it's not meant to be because of kismet. It really is chaos, but it's a kind of a beautiful chaos. And the strength of love and human attraction is so powerful that it cuts through that chaos, and we're pulled together. Musically, so that's lyrically. Musically, I do love the song. You've got the contrast between the verses, which are sort of gritty and hard-edged in this minor key, and then when it shifts to the chorus, it's like this oasis, and the whole tempo changes and it becomes very soft and ambient, and it's really satisfying. You kind of surrender yourself to the song at that point. And it's very satisfying to listen to. Although for me, the real star of Ghost of a Chance is just the words that Geddy is singing, that Neil is communicating, and the ideas as well. And that's my quick Ghost of a Chance deep dive.
Yeah. I love the guitar in this song. So damn good. That solo is unbelievable. Just that he's just hesitating a bit, playing just behind the beat. It's
so emotional.
Yeah, it's absolutely
so much
gorgeous.
Emotion.
Yeah. Neil's thing about this song was not just, it's one thing to find somebody. It's an entirely other thing to be able to make it last. And that was part of his thing. And I have another little quote about this. This is the kind of song we always thought would be a massive hit single, but by this time we've learned that it won't be because we're just too weird.
I mean, yeah, Neil calls it one of our all-time good ones, but it reached number 1 on the U.S. rock radio chart in 1991. My research tells me. Yeah, so this was a single, and you wouldn't think it's a single because it's not really popular, radio-wise. I mean, it's popular amongst fans, but Rush fans. But I always thought, for some weird reason, I always thought the intro guitar part never really fit this song as well as it could have. Maybe that's.
Oh my God!
I always just felt like it. I don't know why I always felt that, but I don't want to harp on that. I wanted to just say, first of all, Brendan, beautiful story. I mean, this song is literally like your life, and that's awesome. I remember back to go back to middle school, which is funny because I wrote down the same thing in 6th grade. I think it was my health teacher said, every basically every second of every day, we're always making a choice. Whether it's you get out of bed, you step down with your left foot or your right foot, or you put your glasses on first, or you pick up your cell phone first, or every single thing we do is a choice. And that's one thing that always stuck with me because of how like prophetic that was. And like of all the things I learned in school, that's one of the things that really stuck with me. And it just fits this song so perfectly because like in the second line of the song is all the choices we made. And it's to Brendan's point. It's like, you know, I mean, I've met my wife through college and everything, and I'm not going to go through a whole story, but a couple different decisions here and there, it wouldn't have happened. Right. So, yeah, it's a very cool twist on a love song, and I think they really hit it out of the park with this one.
Yeah, and there's random things that happen as well that determine these things.
Yeah.
There's choices and choices that we don't make.
If I hadn't opened that manila envelope that was sent to me by my friend Bob Roper from A&M of Canada, and if Bob Roper, in an act of kindness, hadn't decided to just send me this unsigned band to listen to down in Cleveland, you just never know. And if I hadn't brought it downstairs I mean, all of the things that happened that led to Rush getting an American recording contract and so on and so on, it all could have gone the other way. In fact, when I called to tell them that they were huge in Cleveland, and I didn't know them from Adam, I talked to their management and they were like, "We're huge where?" Not that they'd never heard of Cleveland. They didn't even know their record had gotten to Cleveland. Okay. They didn't have a record label. There was no one promoting it. So these are the things where you just look at it and you go, wow, that could have totally gone the other way.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for opening that envelope.
More than 4 decades later.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you. Yes. All right, Chris.
All right. So the big wheel. So Neil says, "Yo, DJ, spin that wheel. Sorry, you lose. Life is so unfair. I mean, shuffling around this mortal coil, this veil of tears, playing the cosmic game show and waiting for the party at the end of the world, taking commercial breaks and flicking through the channels. Then suddenly the show is over. You played well. If you played well and gave it all you had, you certainly are a true winner. But sometimes the winner takes nothing. That is called tragedy," says Neil about the big wheel. So musically, I really, really, really like this song. I love the beginning part, those keyboards that are just kind of floating over the top of these of the guitar. It's almost like this angelic kind of that's happening over it. But it's kind of a unique song in that the riff that goes into the choruses, I don't know, it's like really that down, and it's like this hard on the snare and stuff like that. It's not I don't know, it's just kind of difficult, and I just think it's awesome. And Geddy kind of sings with this attitude. It's I was only a kid, like kind of
it's
like
kind of
that.
country-ish, right?
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
there's something country about this song, especially when you get to the
And
chorus.
here again, when you least expect it, Rush just
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, the song is kind of poppy in a way, and even lyrically, it's a little bit different. That's, I love well, first of all, this is yet another song of Neil talking about wanting more out of life. I was only a kid, gone without a backward glance, going for broke, going for another chance. He was 18 years old. He left, he dropped out of school, went to London to be a musician, and playing the game, but not the way the big boys played, where he talks about in Work in Progress, that first instructional video that he did, where he talks about the kind of young ignorance of, that naivete of being young and not knowing any better, and going around London with a list of booking agencies that he copied off of record albums, and going to these offices looking for a job as a drummer, and he talks about a receptionist saying, "Well, you're very brave." meaning you're a fool. And it kind of made me think about when I was in my 20s and young and skinny and cute, I was an actor, and there were all of these rules that actors were told about approaching agents and casting directors. And you don't call them, don't knock on the door, leave your picture. You don't want to bother them, this and that. But there were always people who didn't know any better. Oh, you're an agent. Hi, I'm an actor, and that sort of, and then they would get somewhere and be like, but I followed the rules and you didn't call me, you called him. That's not fair, And I actually spoke to an agent once who says if anybody slid a picture under his door, he'd throw it away, because if you don't have the balls to knock on the door, how are you going to make it in this business?
Yeah.
So there's that. And let's see, where am I? I'm going around. The middle eight, I thought was a little bit weird, just the way the lyrics and the music goes, and it's a little bit, I don't know, it seems a little simple for Rush.
Yeah.
And that's the only part that doesn't quite work for me, but the choruses make up for it, and especially he does such a great vocal performance in this song. It's the first time, I think, that we hear some runs in his voice. That looking for love. Like, he didn't do that stuff too much. And it's only a little bit, but that's part of also what makes this song sound country. I mean, I kept listening to the song over and over again today. And one of the times I was singing along, I started singing it with a country accent.
I do that with Face Up.
This works.
Yeah.
You just change the line, don't want to wait for heaven, to I can't wait for heaven. And then you got yourself a country song. Yeah, but
Chris, he does that with the word fire too, playing with fire, and then it echoes out.
Fire.
Playing with fire, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really cool. And those, I wanted, my friend Jim and I always used to talk about how the ending of this song, we thought a brass section needed to come in with this bah, 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 after that final chorus. Yeah, this is great. Love this tune.
Well, the ending of the song, to me, it sounds like a wheel. It sounds like a Wheel of Fortune theme song or something. As it fades out, like it's almost like intentional. It sounds like a wheel spinning or something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, there's two things I want to say here. One, I feel like this song is kind of it's not. Neil has stated it's not autobiographical, right? It's not. People thought it was, but he stated it's not. But I feel like this is kind of a continuation of songs like Circumstances or The Analog Kid or Middletown Dreams, where, you know what I mean? So it's kind of revisiting that, dealing with a character kind of growing up and using religious references and metaphorical analogies for life. But I think this song can kind of have two meanings. One, first, the gambling theme, like a roulette wheel. Roulette, those who don't know what roulette is, it's a game of, and I pulled this from the internet. I've only done it once, twice, but it's a game of chance. Uses a spinning wheel with either 37 or 38 numbered pockets. The roulette casino wheel is spun one way and a ball is sent around the other way. Before the wheel is turned, players bet on where the ball will land. There are a lot of different ways to do this, and the chances of winning and the payouts vary. So that alone is like metaphorically for life. Like, the greater the risk, the greater the reward, right? Or with certain things in life.
Like that TV show Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, right. And the second thing, I feel like, and Neil revisits this in the song How It Is from Vapor Trails, which we did a deep dive into a few months back. A wheel that just keeps moving forward, and, kind of like in How It Is, foot upon the stair, shoulder to the wheel. It's like, keep moving forward in life. That's kind of how I interpret it. Brennan, you were going to say something?
There's a line. No, I think that's a great point as far as the roulette wheel and the analogy there. But there's a line in this song. I was lined up for glory, but the tickets sold out in advance.
Yeah.
That lyric, like, I almost laugh when I hear it, because when I interpret it sometimes very literally, because how many times have we tried to get like show tickets, but the American Express titanium pre-sale happened 2 weeks ago and you missed out, and or you can interpret the lyrics, metaphorically, but like you said, Chris, like Neil said, life isn't fair. We cannot control everything that happens to us. things, circumstances will happen to us. One day we'll be at work and they'll say, hey, you're going to go home for 2 weeks because there's a pandemic. And then it ends up being 2 years. I mean,
Right.
none of us could control that. But what we can control is how we react to it. We can control how we take what happens to us and how we then respond to it. And that's kind of how we navigate our way through lives and how we kind of win or lose in those moments.
Yeah.
The artist says that X is not autobiographical. If you're a writer, you're writing about what you know. You're writing about the life that you've lived. You're writing about your experiences. Now, agreed. Did you play roulette 6 years ago? You know, maybe you didn't. But the metaphor of life as a wheel, as you know, as a game of chance, the why are we here? You know, we don't know why we're here. It just seems random sometimes. I think there are autobiographical touches in a lot of what Neil writes. But on the other hand, there's also a universality to his work, so that as any good poet, and I think of Neil as a poet, as any good poet, when you read it, even if you haven't had that experience, like I'm not a Christian and I don't play one on TV, I'm perfectly happy being Jewish, thank you very much. But on the other hand, I can identify with some of the imagery in his work and go, even though I've never been a Christian and Neil is not really religious either, these are the traditions that influenced him. They influence Western civilization. I get what he was trying to say there. So is it strictly autobiographical? No, but it wasn't intended to be.
Well, Donna, go ahead with your song.
Okay. So Bravado is a song I've talked about before. Okay. So if this kind of sounds like deja vu all over again, but I always find with any Rush song, the more you revisit it, the more you get different experiences of it. Has that ever happened to you where you listened to something and then you came back to it a couple of years later and you're like, I did not realize that. Or it just has a completely different meaning. It resonates differently. Bravado is like that for me in many ways. And for those who say that Neil can't write a tender song, oh, please, okay? Neil is very capable of writing emotions into his music. I think there's some beautiful sentiments in this song, and there is something very haunting about it. And Geddy said he was just stunned by the drumming at the end of it. I mean, there's some very complex part. He said Neil just nailed it. First time, ho-hum, yawn, just did it. But not like mailing it in, just like what skill. Let's talk about the lyrics. This represents everything you've ever known and loved about Neil's writing. Neil is a polymath. He is the kind of person that has so many different influences from art, from literature, from poetry, from religion. And in any Rush song, you're probably going to find elements of Greek mythology. You're going to find elements of English literature. How about a British traditional hymn that was meant to provoke patriotism? Yep, it's in there. And so this is the many, many experiences that made Neil who he was and who he remains for us. So you've got, if we burn our wings flying too close to the sun, of course, the Icarus myth in Greek mythology, okay? If the moment of glory, Moses in the Bible, Exodus 33, where Moses asks God, let me behold your glory. And of course, God says no one can see God and live, but he does reveal himself to Moses because he says, my servant Moses is the most humble man on the face of the earth. With him I speak directly, not in dreams and visions. Wow. Wouldn't you like to have been a person who could speak directly with God? So we have that wish, the ability to understand life, the ability to have that moment of glory. And then you've got, of course, the recurring theme we will pay the price, but we will not count the cost. And if you know Neil, you know that when he repeats stuff, it ain't accidental. And he explains that this, of course, came from a novel that he liked by John Barth. I believe it was from 1987. And he asked for permission to use the line. And it basically had to do with going for it, taking a chance. I'm going to tell you something about that in a second that you may or may not know, but let me do a few more images here, if I may, okay? But after John Barth and the Tidewater Tales. So you got Though Paradise is Lost. Aha, John Milton, 1667, said Donna, who used to have to teach it. Oh, please. It's long, but it's about the fall from grace, the Adam and Eve in the garden and paradise and the Garden of Eden and being driven out and being so close to it and it's gone. And then there's the line about if the music stops. Life like a game of musical chairs. Remember musical chairs? Where, you got the music going and then all of a sudden the music stops and unless you're sitting on a chair, boom, you're out of the game. And doesn't it seem like that to us sometimes? In the slightest moment, that moment of glory is lost, that music stops and we're not on the right chair, we're looking for hope and glory. That's that British patriotic song from 1901. But let me tell you something. For Neil, this song encouraged him to do something that he didn't plan on doing. Neil had participated in a tribute. Some of you know this story already, but I still think it's a great story. He had participated in a tribute to Buddy Rich, and Neil had always loved jazz, okay? He was very eclectic, and the tribute did not go well. Okay, he didn't feel like he got enough opportunity to rehearse. There were technical problems. He came home and he was like, boy, howdy, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, it was like the arrangement the band had was different. Than,
please, everything went wrong. We've all had days like that. But this song, in some ways, was the inspiration. He rethought it and he decided, you know what? I'm going to do a tribute to Buddy Rich. After all, I'm going to just come back at it and I'm going to take that chance. And of course, the result was Burning for Buddy. So in many ways, Neil says, none of this is autobiographical. Oh, please, it's all autobiographical. But the thing is, it's also autobiographical for us. Are we going to try to attain that moment of glory? Are we going to perhaps fly too close to the sun and then give up because we burned our wings? Are we going to lose our chance and then decide, well, that's it, we had our chance? Or are we going to pick ourselves back up again and go for it? Are we going to pay the price, but not count the cost? Because in the end, if we don't keep reinventing ourselves, who will remember us? Today, we remember Rush, and we remember them because their music still speaks to us. And I think that's what Neil intended all along. So Bravado is a song with a word that goes back to the 1600s, meaning boldness. So Neil's invitation to us, be bold. I got my PhD when I was 64 years old. Everyone said I'd never do it. I don't know if I sound any smarter, but I got my PhD. There are so many people out there thinking, my moment came and went. Really? Who decided that? Neil could have come home from that really abysmal concert and gone, never trying to do a tribute to Buddy Rich again.
Right.
And instead, what do we have? We've got
I
Burning
have to.
Buddy. Yeah, you
I
got
have
it.
to. I have to piggyback on that.
Please.
One thing that he says: the important thing is, if you fail once, or if your luck is bad this time, the dream is still there. A dream is only over if you give it up or if it comes true. That is called irony.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you are. And in the end,
I
what
think
will you create? What chance will you take? Roll the bones.
I think in this song it has a fantastic, melodic solo that fits the song perfectly, right? But I think one of the best moments just in Rush songs is that solo into "And If the Music Stops, There's Only the Sound of the Rain." I think it's one of the best. Now, I don't want to say lyrics but just moments in Rush songs. It's just goosebumps every time.
But there you are again. It's like life as a roulette wheel, life as a merry-go-round,
Right.
life as any one of a number of things, the big wheel, et cetera, et cetera. However you look at it, it may be random, but it's the only life we've got. So let's make the most of it.
Yep.
Mhm. That's it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, why does it happen?
Because
it
it
happened.
happens.
Roll the bones. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this deep dive, or for watching this deep dive. Thank you, Donna, Brendan, and Chris, for talking Roll the Bones. And we'll
Thank
see
you,
you on
Brian,
the.
for having us. We've been doing this for a while. People say they like it. If you do like it, leave us a comment.
Join
because
the discussion.
seriously, we're people too. We want to know how we're doing. We want to know how we can do better. And if you like what we're up to, we're going to keep right on doing it because we love Rush.
100%. We'll be doing. We're moving on to Presto next time, so stay tuned. And join the discussion in the comments. See you later, everybody.
Bye.